At first glance, the Realme GT6 might look pretty similar to the GT6T that I reviewed recently, but appearances can be deceiving. So what's Realme actually done here? Have they provided enough to warrant the higher asking price? Now, I've been using the GT6 as my primary for the better part of 2 weeks, and in this video, let me help you find an answer to exactly that question. If this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash, you're watching C4 Retech, and let's get started. Now before we get into the nitty-gritty, here's what you get in the box. It's pretty similar to what we get with most Realme phones. The charger here is 120 watts, super VOOC, and despite the GT6 sporting a higher than usual battery capacity of 5500 mAh, you can fully charge it in under 20 minutes, 50% in 10 minutes, hell, 3 minutes gets you about 20%. It's very quick. And the battery life too, in my almost 2 weeks with it was excellent. Even with heavy use, the GT6 easily lasted me a full day with enough left in the tank. Now, though the battery capacity is high, Realme's been efficient with the form factor. The GT6 is not compact or anything, but it's 75mm wide thanks to that curved display, which along with the curved back makes the 8.6mm thickness feel even slimmer. And the back is glass, yet the weight is kept manageable at about 200 grams. Of course, the glass back, it does pick up fingerprints almost as much as the plastic we saw on the 60. It also happens to be just as slippery, so I definitely recommend leaving the included case on. It's worth noting that the sides are still plastic and there's still no IP rating here. There is an optical fingerprint scanner under the display which happens to be fast and accurate, but I feel it's placed a little too low to be ergonomic. On the flip side, we do get an IR blaster to control appliances around the house and stereo speakers, which when coupled with that excellent display, makes for a very good media consumption experience. Talking about the display, here's yet another Gorilla Glass Victus 2 covered 6.8-inch AMOLED panel. It's 10-bit, 120Hz refresh, there's 80 LTPO tech, which helps improve efficiency by letting the refresh rate vary as needed. The resolution is 1.5K and we get a brightness peak of 6000 nits, which is for HDR. Under auto mode, the entire panel can output over 1700 nits, meaning outdoor use, not an issue. Also, when you drop under 70 nits, the panel switches from DC to 2160Hz PWM dimming, so that should lower eye strain when you're using the phone under low ambient light. Overall, this is an excellent panel with good brightness, smooth performance, and excellent colors. Now, of course, you don't get that smooth performance part with the display unless there is the hardware to back it up, and that's where the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 comes in. This chip, it's pretty much the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3 that we saw on the GT60. It's got the same core split up, but the cores are just clocked higher. So this matches the 8 Gen 2 for CPU performance and slots somewhere between the 8 Plus Gen 1 and the 8 Gen 2 when it comes to GPU. Now this SoC, it's paired with up to 16 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM and up to 512 gigs of UFS 4.0 storage. So solid specs, but the issue is with thermal management, which is honestly not that great because the GT6, it lost about 40% of its performance in 20 minutes when pushed. Frankly, it's a little disappointing since even the much sleeker Edge 50 Ultra managed to do better under the same conditions. That said, at least the phone did not get too hot. It looks like Realme is prioritizing temperature control over performance. From a software perspective, the GT6 runs on Realme UI 5 built atop Android 14. Realme has promised 3 years of Android version updates and 4 years of security patches. And as you can see, the phone is responsive, the performance is good, it's all smooth, fluid, user experience, no complaints. In fact, the linear X-axis vibration motor, it's worth mentioning that it's pretty good. And given this is mid-2024, AI is the buzzword going around, Realme has got some of that baked into. You have AI Smart Loop. Basically, take a screenshot, you can instantly grab it and pull it to the edge of the screen, and the phone will predict which apps you're likely to share it with. Then we have AI Smart Removal. Now, if you remember, we saw this first on the Realme GT Neo 6 SE, which was the Chinese phone that got rebranded as the GT60 in India. Back then, this was in beta and abysmally slow. Well, now it's not in beta anymore. That's the best I can say because it's still quite slow when you compare to other brands' implementations. That said, it is pretty accurate and the results are fine. Now here's another example, see for yourself. Now there is also AI night vision, where Realme claims they use AI to improve the low light video, and to an extent I guess it does work. What you're seeing here is 4K 30 low light footage captured on both the GT6 and the H50 Ultra, and as you can see, the GT6 keeps up with it for the most part. At times it's slightly brighter, but also slightly noisier. Personally, I take being more or less on par with a more expensive phone as a win. And while we are on the topic of cameras, this is mainly what you're paying extra for over the GT60. The primary here, it's Sony's Lydia Light 808 this time, a 1x1.4 inch sensor that's paired with an optically stabilized f1.7 lens. The faster lens makes for a stronger background blur, a stronger bokeh, and the field of view is slightly wider since they've gone for a 23mm equivalent lens instead of 26. But the main difference here, it's gotta be with the processing. On the GT6, it appears a little more mature, as in the colors are more true to life. That slight saturation boost we saw on the 60, that's not present here. Also, Realme leaves things a little contrasty, as in the darker areas aren't boosted quite as much. And if I were to guess, I'd say that's because Realme trusts the dynamic range of this Light 808 a whole lot more. Like, look at this shot. This perfectly shows you the difference in dynamic range. See that area around the sun? How blown out it is on the 60? Under low light, Realme doesn't boost the darker areas too much. The images are kept quite detailed though, and the noise levels are low. Now the ultra wide, that's Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, the same 8 megapixel IMX355, and weirdly this retains the slightly oversaturated processing from the 60. As a result of that, the colors don't perfectly match with the primary. And once again, no autofocus, so no macros. Now on the GT6, we do get a third camera, and this is yet another 50 megapixel sensor, the Samsung JN5 this time. It's paired with a 2x telephoto lens, f2.8, no OIS. It seems to do a good enough job for stills, though it's mainly meant for portraits like this, which as you can see turn out well. Now when you zoom in, surprisingly, even the 4x results were perfectly usable. The dynamic range is average, but the detail levels were good. On the video front, we can shoot Dolby Vision at up to 4K 30, but it's the standard 4K 60 footage where I feel you see a huge practical upgrade over the 60. The EIS jitter that we saw on that phone, it's nowhere to be found here. The footage is a whole lot more stable and detailed. Realme's done an excellent job on the GT6. Now with respect to selfies, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V again, looks like we get the same 32 megapixel shooter. It performs similarly, good dynamic range, skin tones and edge detection with portraits. Once again, there is a little bit of skin smoothing going on here, and you can shoot 4K selfie video with electronic stabilization. Now at the time of shooting this video, I don't know what the official pricing is gonna be, but I've been told it's gonna be under 40,000 rupees, which would be brought further down with offers. So in a world where the GT60 exists, is it worth paying more to get the GT6? Now I like glass backs as much as the next guy, I like performance boosts, that's all okay. But personally, I don't think I'd wanna pay extra for that. But the cameras, the 60 wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, but the GT6's optics are an upgrade in every way possible. So if you want that superior optics, or if Realme sneakily removes the offer pricing for the 60, causing it to jump up and narrowing the gap between both prices, in these cases, I can definitely suggest the GT6. It seems to be an excellent deal. But if you don't really care much for the cameras, and the GT60 continues being available at around the 30K mark, then that still looks like your best bang for your buck phone today. So what do you think about the Realme GT6? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Ash out.